but I'm uncomfortable.
Okay. Ready? Breathe. Hello, I'm Sean.
And I'm Summer, and we're back. Today we'll be talking about grief and things that go with that.
Yeah.
First, we're going to start off with a clinical definition, and this comes from the Mayonnaise Clinic. Grief is a strong, sometimes overwhelming emotion for people, regardless of whether their sadness stems from the loss of a loved one or from a terminal diagnosis they or someone they love have received. Grief is a natural reaction to loss. Grief is both a universal and a personal experience. Individual experiences of grief vary and are influenced by the nature of the loss.
What does it mean to you?
Grief, to me, means a lot of things. But in college, I took a course called Psychology of Death and Dying, which is my favorite course. But one thing that really stuck out to me that my professor said was grief is love and survival. Which is not for all cases of grief, but for a lot of times it is.
Yeah.
I feel like if you have lost someone, you grieve them because you loved them.
Yeah.
And you're still alive. I think grief means different things to a lot of different people, but I think for me, getting to the bottom of it, grief is what you experience when you lose something.
Yeah.
And it's the period of time that it takes you to mourn.
So, bereavement period, which we will discuss later on, yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's no simple way to wrap it up.
No, of course not.
You can't put it in a little package with a nice little bow.
No.
It's not that simple. And to try and explain it as something that simple is to discredit people and people's emotions.
Yeah, exactly.
But also included, I think, in grief is just the after effects. Like the definition said, it's not only individual, it's universal, which if you put that in terms of a family, it causes lots of havoc, chaos, confusion. It causes lots of things.
Yeah.
And your family not only has to grieve the loss of that person, but the loss of what that person meant.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And even on a deeper level, what that person brought.
Right.
The way they changed things and the impact that they had on everyone. And so after my uncle passed, it was a sad time for many reasons, obviously, but mainly because we had this tradition every year that we no longer do because it's just too hard to do. We would go to his every Boxing Day, so the day after Christmas, and we would have dinner and we'd celebrate as a family, but soon after he passed, it was never done again, and it hasn't been done for like 10 years now. And that is hard. That is really difficult because now that memory is also lost as well. That memory is not... No, but you also have to understand that people heal in different ways and they need the amount of time that they want. And some people say, how much time do you need? Why can't we start the tradition up again? But the truth is, like you said, not only is it universal, but it's individual. I cannot dictate to someone, you should be grieving for this amount of time.
Right.
That is a horrible thing to say. And so, let's talk about bereavement periods around the world, for example. So in the UK, you're given, I think it's 2 to 5 days. And some places in Europe as well. So what about the States?
Well, I looked it up, and in the States, they don't have like a mandated number of days. It's really up between the employee and the employer.
Yeah, but I guess it's just, with all cases, including the UK, it's just up to the discretion of the employer, like you said.
Something that I think is really important to talk about, and if I sound preachy, I'm not. I'm just very passionate.
Yeah, very passionate.
Is the stigma surrounding grief.
Mm-hmm.
I I personally have encountered people that are like, it's been a week, you need to get over it. Excuse me?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about that, and I reacted very badly because, to me, like I mentioned before, that is ridiculous. Like, who are you to tell somebody you only need a week to grieve someone that you've lost? They have died, they're no longer here, they're not coming back.
Right.
How dare you say that?
Yeah.
But that just shows how insensitive some people are, but also, in some cases, they may not know how to deal with that.
Yeah. Or they're just purely ignorant.
Yeah.
Like they've never experienced grief.
Right.
But I think a lot of the reason we've created this channel is to fight stigmas around mental health, and that goes with that goes with grief.
Yeah.
Grief happens a lot to everyone, right? Because there's so many different situations in which could cause grief. Maybe you lost your job, right? And with that came a loss of friends, a loss of social identity, income, so many things that you're like, wait, now I have to change my whole life because of this, and that causes grief. That causes something that you need to mourn almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Or even like us coming here.
Yeah.
Right, you almost have to grieve the life that you did lead. It sounds dramatic, but I mean, it's kind of true.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, but I guess we're going back to it. But then I still know what you mean, like, once we go back, things will have changed, will be different. Things back home might be different. So we have lost what has happened before, that chapter of our life, so yeah, I think so.
But really, for the big ticket item, I think, for the loss of a loved one, and people still are like, oh, I think it's time you get over that. Oh, you're not handling that well. Oh, you're not grieving good enough. What does that even mean?
That's wild to me. I also feel like one factor of this is, which we haven't spoken about, is the topic of death. So I feel like some people might be uncomfortable with this topic of death. A lot of people fear death.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about it, or we've lost someone, we need to offload. We need somebody to give us the compassion that we need. You know, the person that is giving might not know how to give,
right,
because they're uncomfortable with that situation. They maybe haven't experienced death, or they're fearful of death. And talking about death is still very taboo, I think.
Do you fear death?
I did. I do not now. It's part of life's course. I probably fear how it will happen, but I don't fear that I will die.
Right.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, no, I don't fear death. If anything, I fear dying. Also, I watch way too many crime shows, so that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Like I said in the last video, I avoid pain. So, but a really good podcast, I don't know if you've listened to it, on this topic is the Ologies podcast.
Oh, yeah.
They have one on thanatology. It is amazing. I loved it a lot.
So what's thanatology?
Oh, thanatology is the study of death.
Okay, yeah.
It's death and dying. Which, like I said, that was my favorite class in university. If I could take it again, I would. To some people that might sound horribly morbid. But like you said, it's part of life.
Yeah.
Everybody will die and everything will die. That sounds awful, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
And I think we really need to have an honest and open dialogue about what that looks like.
Yeah.
And with kids, we need to be honest.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Not say they're sleeping forever.
Yeah, or they've gone somewhere and they're not going to come back, or, you know.
Yeah.
You know, if you believe in things like that, like heaven and hell, you can say, you know, they've gone to this place. But don't scare them.
Yeah.
Don't scare the kid.
Right, but also they need to understand that they are gone.
Yeah.
And they're not coming back.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are age-appropriate conversations you need to have, but we need to be honest about it. But just going with the stigma, I think the stigma is something that we really need to talk about and need to have an honest and open dialogue about death, and how people grieve differently, and we can't put a time limit on somebody.
Definitely.
Granted, you might have a week where a month, a year where you just can't. I'm speaking from experience, but then you need to try actively grieving
Yeah.
in order to live life,
Yeah.
not to just sit and waste away, because they most likely would not want that for you.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah.
In this conversation of grief, I think it's important to note how you can be there for someone. And I will illustrate that with a life example. My freshman year of high school, someone very close to me passed away. I considered him my brother. And it was not a pleasant experience, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
He was the second person in my life to die in 2 years. I had moved to another city, away from most of my family. It was me and my mom, which I love my mom, she's my best friend, so that's okay, but I was away from my normal support group.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really hard. Really hard. And my mom and I lived with our cousins, a husband and wife, and their 2 little girls. And the husband had lost his dad when he was in college. We're gonna name him Ryan. Ryan was misunderstood in my family.
Mm-hmm.
But when my mom and I lived with him, he was always kind to me. And especially this freshman year of high school, I was struggling. I've always been a straight A student. I have always loved learning and been a teacher's pet. I was that kid. It's fine. But I was failing geometry at this point. I just couldn't handle life. I couldn't focus. Honestly, I was depressed, and I didn't know it because I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And Ryan saw that in me and helped me out. My mom had just had surgery. It was a whole mess. Our lives were a whole mess, but Ryan was there for me, and he helped me with school, and he would just talk to me like a person. I don't think where I would be today if he hadn't helped me my freshman year of high school.
Okay.
And saying that with grief, a lot of times all people need is someone to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't need your platitudes. Really, they just need a friend.
Yeah.
Either someone to listen, even if it's uncomfortable. Let me tell you, I have gone through a lot of experiences with death, and when it happens to someone else, I still get uncomfortable.
Yeah, of course.
Which is funny to me, because I'm like, I've experienced this, and yet I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people just need somebody.
Yeah.
Whether it's, like I said, to sit there and listen to them talk.
Yeah, you're just not doing anything, you're just in the room with them.
Watching a movie.
Yeah.
Or literally, like, they're reading a book and you're drawing or something.
Yeah.
Like, really, they just need somebody there. And so, I think it's just important in grief to not, like we said earlier, a lot of people are scared of death, and it makes them really uncomfortable, and that's understandable. Death is scary. It can be really frightening, especially if you're not confident in what's happening on the flip side. But just be there for your friends. Again, not to sound preachy, this is just advice, I guess.
Yeah.
My, what was this? Junior year of high school, my uncle passed away. He was like my older brother. And really, to paint a picture, okay, so one of my uncles passed away in 8th grade, then my brother, freshman year, 2 of my great-grandmas, and then my uncle. This is my junior year. And so I think my brain was like, nah, dog.
Yeah.
We ain't dealing with this.
So tough.
So delayed grief is very much a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's something that's not talked about a lot, or normalized. I didn't grieve, I called him Bubba, my uncle. I didn't grieve Bubba until 2 years later when I was in college. And it's because I was faced with it.
Yeah.
I couldn't run from it anymore. But really, I think in the beginning it was my brain protecting me. I don't think I was in a mind space to be able to handle it or to be able to grieve healthily.
Yeah.
But when I got to college, I had some people ask some really pointed questions, and thus began the grieving process. So along with just being there for friends, sometimes we talked about in one of our self-care episodes of you need a support system.
Yeah.
And your friends know you. If you have good friends, hopefully they know you well.
To pick up on.
Be like, wait.
Yeah. That's not right. Yeah.
I feel like we should maybe talk about that.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, I don't know what the point of me sharing any of that was, but there you go.
No, delayed grief is a big thing that is not discussed, as you said. Sometimes it's when it's happened and you've lost someone, you're trying to be strong for other members of your family.
Yes, very much so.
Or you're at a stage in your life where things have to keep going on. So we're talking about like the bereavement period as well. Maybe you need to get back into work, you need to get back into school, or you're going to start college. And it sounds so sad, there's no time for you to take that
mental break.
Yeah,
honestly,
and just pause and grieve. And so you find yourself living. And you're living, you're not thinking about it. You put it to the back of your mind, sadly. You missed the person, but you haven't grieved the loss of them. And
it's not real.
Yeah, it's not real.
It's like you're stuck in the denial stage.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're stuck in that stage, and then it hits you. And it can have quite a dramatic effect as well.
Yeah.
Because it comes as like a second shock.
Right.
So the initial shock of that person passing, and then like 2 years later, the shock
of finally dealing with it.
With the fact that they've passed.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think, we talk a lot about triggers in today's society, but specifically with grief, that it can be anything. It could be a song, it could be a smell. I mean, it could happen at any time.
Yeah.
And if you're uncomfortable with death and you're with a friend that happens to, that can be very uncomfortable for you.
Exactly, yeah.
Because people react in a myriad of ways.
Yeah.
They can start crying, they can shut down, they can
lash out,
freak out, I mean anything. But, I mean really all people want is just a friend. Yeah. A lot of times people know that you can't exactly understand what they've been through.
Yeah.
So even if we both had the same family member pass away, we might not experience grief the same way.
Oh no, yeah.
And then subsequent triggers and things.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And so I can't really ever say I really understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
I understand my grief, and we can relate on that level.
Yeah.
All of that to say, everybody's grief walk is different and individual to who they are and where they are and their situation, and we don't pretend to understand to know exactly what you're going through.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
we hope that this can help. Even if you're not going through grief or you haven't gone through grief, you probably know somebody that has. Yeah. Sorry if also this has been a jumbled mess, because anytime I talk about grief or anything related to it, nothing makes sense that comes out of my mouth, so.
It's an extremely tough subject, and sometimes it's actually hard to put into words.
Oh, for dang sure.
This is, because it's also a topic, like I said, death, grief is not something we really talk about. So to try and put this in one video is extremely difficult. Because we can talk for hours about this.
Yeah, we've had many conversations about this.
Yeah, so to put this into one video, it's not a reflection of everything that we think and everything that we feel.
One thing another thing that's important to add, I don't know where we're going to put this, but it's fine.
Cool.
It is important to talk about the people that we've lost.
Yeah.
I know it can be hard and difficult and uncomfortable and maybe even painful.
Yeah.
But it's important to talk about.
Yeah.
I know I've had situations with my cousins that a lot of my family members won't talk about this person. And that's not cool.
That's a shame, really, I think.
Like, I have so many fun memories that I want to talk about, and I know that you can relate. Who else am I going to talk to about
who else
this?
are you going to, discuss? There's only so much you can tell me.
Right.
But I've never met this person.
Right.
And, yeah.
So my advice as a griever is have hard conversations.
Yeah.
Be a friend.
Yeah.
Even if it's just pizza and Disney movies.
Yeah.
sometimes you might need to go to your friend's house and be like, hey,
Yeah.
hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
Love, we're not gonna just sit on the couch.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that. You need to get up.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm fortunate enough to have have had some great friends that have been there for me. But I've also had some people that are like, you need to get over it. So
Ridiculous.
life is fun. Alright, anyways, thanks for watching. Please drop a comment and let us know what you thought. Things you do when you're grieving. I don't know, that seems awkward to say, but really, we'd love to have a conversation. I'd love to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Sean would too.
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, and you can put a comment on YouTube or you can send us a message on Instagram.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's it. We will catch you next week.
Yeah. Bye guys. Bye.